Okay, quick hive inspections out at the bee yard here Monday night. Today is Wednesday, I believe May 11th, and all three of these hives are doing pretty good. I got into the first one, added the super, checked on them, they were doing great. The second hive here, however, they had about 20 swarm cells. So I went ahead and made two splits off of that. Wish I had the camera running when I did that, but tonight we're getting into this one. I've not been in this since probably middle of February. So this is going to be the first time I'm actually getting this hive. We'll see what it looks like. The way I typically do my hive inspections, I always work from the back. So that way the foragers can keep going in and out up front. I am going to smoke the front a little bit just to calm them down in case it's needed. A lot of girls in the front porch. Okay, not too much, just enough to give them a different smell. I remove my blocks. The blocks for my hives out in my apiaries have no there's no semblance behind them. It doesn't matter what the blocks are. There's not a signal. I'm not keeping track of my hives based on position of bricks like some people do. That'll work. I'm just limited to whatever bricks and stuff I find on the apiary. This one's propolized pretty good. Okay, take the top off. Always look for the queen. Doesn't usually happen, but it can. Just gonna lay it up at the side there. Smoke them a little bit from the top. And if you can see in here, what I had here, I had one of those feeders on top. So I'm putting these girls down here out of the wind, best of my ability. Give them a little room to move. So this feeder was here in February just to make sure they had extra sugar water. Got plenty of bees there. I'm gonna smoke them. Always looking for the queen. Don't see her yet. She shouldn't be up this high, but you never know. Especially since I haven't been out here for a while. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take this off. Because there are so many bees on it, I'm gonna put it in the front of the hive so those girls can find their way home. And it looks like we got I got a pollen patty wrapper here. Looks like we got some nice bees going on here. I don't know if you can try to get a close up of that a little bit. Doesn't look too bad, so I'm going to take a couple frames off here and see what we got. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to peel it off, look at the bottom, check for swarm cells. I got 3 mediums. So you want to set the hives, you want to set the boxes up, the supers up, so they're vertical. That way, there's no risk of the frames sliding off and hitting each other. We're taking a look for swarm cells. As you can see, they're busy certainly making drone brood there, but I think I see some swarm cells also. Let's get those bees off of there so we can see a little better. You got all kinds of drone right there for sure. Looks like they may have attempted a few swarm cells there. All have been open, it looks like. So let's see what we got on the top of the next box. All the girls are already up here trying to take care of that drone comb that we have there, drone brood. Let's have them get out of that. Nice gooey stuff there, right there. Sorry, boys. Assuming you are all drones. Sorry, boys. All right. Take this out. That's for mic control. And we'll take that frame off. Or maybe we'll start going in it. I want to see the bottom of this frame. Yeah, I'd say we had some swarm cells. I'm not going to break this bottom one apart. I'm not going to look for the queen. Instead, I'm going to go up to the top box. We're going to add a super today for sure. If I find any good swarm cells, we'll probably do a split. So let's see what we got. Now I'm only running 9 frames, not 10. It's a little easier, a little less risk to pull the queen out. Cap brood right here, as you can see. I'm looking for the queen. It's a good brood frame. These girls have got a lot of bees in here. Now what you can do with your hive tool is just gently go in there and press one to the side, being careful not to hit any bees. Try to break any propolis they may have. Just do a little movement like this to get them separate. Easier to pull out that way. Let's take a look at this frame. A lot of drone comb right there. They're building places where I really don't want it. So what I'm going to do right now, again, this is an out apiary. I'm going to add a drone frame to this brood box. They're producing drones great, but I want them to continue to produce drones year after year after year. I can always replace this. It's not been drawn out yet. I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there. And we'll check on the next frame here. Another frame full of brood, cap brood. Got some nectar, some pollen on that one. More cap brood. That queen's laying good. Lots of girls in here. No wonder they got some open brood right there. No wonder they're building drone. Maybe getting ready to take off. We got some eggs, so we know she's still fresh. We know she's still laying. I'm going to pull this drone frame out. I'll put those brood frames back together. And I'm going to move this drone frame to the end. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in there now. We still got that one of brood out. And I'm going to cap brood. And I'm going to go ahead and look at that other box. When you set them back on, you want to look out, girlies. Make sure that it goes back in the same direction where we had them. So I don't want to rotate the box if I don't have to. All right, I'm going to pull these out frame by frame. Take a look and see what we got. Get the girls to go down a little bit. All right. We'll take out the outside one. That gives us a little more room to play with. Ah, it has been drawn out a little bit, hasn't it? Make sure the queen's not hiding anywhere. They're running out of room, so they're probably starting to build comb as an emergency. I don't see any eggs in there, so probably pretty good. This looks like it's most of the honey. I'm just gonna slide her on out. Take a peek from the inside. We got plenty of drone brood, man. They are making drone brood like crazy, or drone comb, sorry. So with this type of hive tool, I can either pry up like that, or just separate them the way I did before. Nice cap brood. There's the queen. There she is. She's a good one. See her? Hope it's showing up in camera. She's laying. Put mama back in. So mama's there. We found her, so I'm gonna be a little bit more aggressive on these frames. I know mama can move around, and hopefully I can get an inspection before she moves around too far. What I'm looking for are swarm cells. If I see a good swarm cell, I'm gonna separate these girls and make a split. I don't see any swarm cells intact right now. I'm gonna lean her on the outside in case I wanna steal this frame. Got some capped, got plenty of nectar there. On the reverse side, you got all that drone comb at the bottom. You can see it. No queen cells. Now I did make a couple splits the other day from another hive, so I may take some of these brood frames back and even out some of my other resources at home. Some more cap brood, got nectar. It's unfortunate this is 3 mediums and she's laying in the top super, so I really only like to have 2 in the brood chamber, but hey, it's a nice solid hive. I'm not going to complain about having this many girls. We are definitely putting on some supers though now, however, because they're running out of some room. Look at that drone comb. See all those drones? See how they're building it up? They're wanting to breed. They're wanting to expand. I may have caught them just in time before they did anything stupid. Well, I say stupid. It's not stupid for the bees. It's just inconvenient for the beekeeper. Look at that. All those drones. Bunch of healthy girls but no swarm cells. I am still going to make a split with those 2 frames. So I'm going to slide these back in. I should take the time to clean off all the propolis off the racks, but I'm not going to this point in time. Just gradually going to get a little tighter. Okay. Got a frame of drawn honeycomb. This is from last year. Those girls will like that with the honey flow on right now. Okay, now I'm going to take both of these frames, of cap brood and some nurse bees. I put them in this nuke box. So we got some open brood, we got nectar, we got pollen. Be nice to have a couple queen cells, but I got some at home. Honey super number 1. And one trick that I've learned, if you're worried about getting your boxes square, if you go catacorner, so put your hand right here in this corner, put your hand up here in this corner, and if those 2 are in line and even, then the back 2, if everything's built square, should also be in line and even. So there your boxes are on nice and tight. This one of these 2 obviously was not built square, but it's old equipment. What can I say? The girls have been treated for mites already. You saw me pull those out. I won't do any more mite treatments until after I pull off the honey. I'm gonna try, there's lots of autumn olive out here, black locust. The girls are going for it pretty good. As soon as I can, probably in a week and a half, I'll be back out. Whatever full honey I can pull, I will. I know there's people who would disagree with this, that they would pile their honey supers on as high as they can, but I'm quite a ways away. I'm 5 to 10 miles away from this bee yard. I don't get out here that much, so that's why I'm putting 2 supers on. But what I will do, and what my mentor told me, although bees will produce honey, bees can get intrinsically lazy. When I run my honey supers, I want to go with 9 frames, not 10. And this little handy device can help get the best spacing for your honey supers. I threw that one up a little bit. These are in here snug. So this device is preset to fit the supers. You just kind of go along like this. You can drag it if you want to and get them all aligned. If they're not fitting right, just drag them around. And now they're fairly evenly spaced and should give us the most honey per frame that we can get, as opposed to running 10 frames. I use 10 frames usually on my brood, and I use 9 frame for my honey supers. Now, if you have an inner cover like this, a ventilated inner cover. What's a ventilated inner cover? I'm not talking about a screen. I'm talking about having an air vent right here. So could be an entrance. They actually could get in and do an entrance in and out of the top, but it's certainly for airflow, things like that. The standard rule is in the summertime, if you have one of these, it should be smiling. That's a smiley face. In the wintertime, it should be frowning. So you would turn it upside down and have the vent on the bottom of the board. So you just basically flip this board over. That's how you run these things. And then when you set your lid on, if you're using telescoping covers, set it on, slide it all the way forward if there's any give. And that way there's ventilation that occurs up front. And in some cases, as I mentioned, it could be an entrance and exit if it's set up that way. Now, as I mentioned, I should be able to take this off. I'm only 3 feet away from the hives, but the girls are pretty gentle, not doing too bad, not very aggressive. What is it? It's 6:38 p.m. Wednesday, May 11th. So, as I mentioned before, a lot of people just keep piling honey supers on. Some will checkerboard, and I understand the premise behind checkerboarding. It's a great process. Look into that on some YouTube videos if you don't know what I mean by checkerboarding. But bees, and I learned this from my mentor, bees can become intrinsically lazy at times. Now, we all talk about worker bees. We know how much they like to work. We know how industrious bees are as a whole. But if they have enough honey that they think we've got it all we need, they will slow down their honey production, at least according to my mentor. I have no hard data to support this, but from experience here in this particular bee yard, the more often we pull honey, the more honey we get in return. So instead of just leaving 2 supers of honey and piling a 3rd super on top, I'm gonna pull those honey supers off and put a brand new honey super down. Now, important to leave enough honey for winter storage, I get that, but in terms of honey production, if I'm trying to make honey, I'm gonna try to pull these supers off relatively, every 3 weeks, as soon as I can pull them off. So I want the girls constantly focused on making and bringing in more honey. If they get to the point where they think, hey, we got enough, we can rest and relax and be merry, that slows down the honey production. Or maybe they'll start looking for different things to do, more pollen, maybe swarm cells, who knows. But my mentor taught me, and I'm passing this on to you, that you want to pull that honey off as soon as you can and keep those girls busy and occupied. So just a real quick hive inspection and just a quick maintenance in the bee yard. we're actually at my mentor's property, and he kept bees for I can't tell you how many years, but he's actually deathly allergic to bees. So he would always have to go out in a full body suit, gloves, you name it, head to toe, everything's wrapped up. And a few years ago he got out of it, but he lets me maintain some hives here on his property. And since he's allergic to bees, I always try to weed eat down around the bee yard. We should do that anyway, but I do it a little bit wider than I would at my house, obviously, because I don't want him getting the mower up too close to the bees. I want to protect my mentor. So a lot of people ask me, John, do you always wear your veil when you're in the beehives? Do you always have gloves? Do you always use a smoker? The answer is no, unless means if I'm not on my own property. If I'm out in somebody else's yard, if I'm out in one of my out apiaries, I will always at least have the veil on. If something would go wrong and the bees become abnormally aggressive or unnormally aggressive, I don't have a chance to run back into the house for protection, right? So I'm out here, I can jump in my truck maybe, but then all the bees could still be all over me. I'm in my truck. I have no hose to water me down, nothing of that nature. So when I'm usually up here checking on my bees or one of my other places, I will almost always have the veil on. When do I use gloves? I use gloves depending on the aggressiveness of the bees. It's easier and more gentle on the bees to not wear gloves. So when I first got into beekeeping, I always had the gloves, always wore the gloves, but it was harder to pull frames out. Obviously you couldn't, I would never dare to grab the queen wearing my gloves if I wanted to mark her for some reason. It's just more gentle on the bees not to have gloves. Now the gloves are with me, especially in the out apiaries, and if I would get stung once or maybe twice in my hands, the gloves go on, okay? So I'm taking the proverbial boxing gloves off and putting the beekeeping gloves on, and I will continue to inspect the hives that way. Now, the caveats could also be, what am I doing? At home, if I'm going out, just lifting the lid, taking a look at the bees, I almost rarely wear a veil. I almost never wear gloves. I may be wearing shorts. But it depends what I'm doing. If I'm going to open them up, pull out every frame looking for queen cells, things like that, then I'm going to have my veil on for sure. I'll probably have a smoker with me. I don't always use the smoker. I have the smoker lit on my out apiaries just in case the bees start going nuts and getting a little aggressive. I'll use the smoke. At home, I rarely light the smoker. I just go out, do my job as quickly and safely as I can. What am I looking for? I did not do a complete inspection. I rarely do complete inspections. What you do is you lift the box, look on the underside, look for swarm cells there. If you think you see any, pull out a few frames, see if there's any cells being built on the sides of the frames. If you see eggs, you've got the queen there. So, or at least she's been there very recently. So I stop looking for, if my goal is just to see is my queen alive, I pull out a frame. The moment I see brood, I start looking on the outside of the brood pattern. They will usually go kind of like in an oval shape until they fill up the frame. If you see cap brood here, look on the outskirts of the frame and see if you see any eggs, tiny larvae. If you do, you're good. I put it back in the box, I'm done. I may have to add a couple supers for honey purposes. I may want to just scrape off some of the tops of the frames, bottoms of the frames, clean them up a little bit, but I don't always do that. I really don't. I probably should, but sometimes I just get in there, look, see if the queen's safe and sound, see if I see any signs of infection, any signs of diseases, any nosema, any diarrhea of the bees, anything that does not look right. If I see too many hive beetles or any hive beetles, I didn't see any hive beetles I remember from this inspection. If I see anything that would be suspicious, then I may take a deeper dive into it. But assuming everything looks good, there's plenty of bees, they're covered on top, and all I need to do is add a couple supers. The moment I see eggs or whatever, typically, boom, I'm done. I put the supers on, put the lid on, I'm in and out in less than 5 minutes, sometimes less than 2 minutes. But if I see something that needs to being taken care of, if I think they're getting too populous, I'm worried about swarming, I want to take a look around for swarm cells, I want to see they got plenty of room to move. Today, they were full. They were packed full. I didn't see any swarm cells that I thought were this season's cells. I didn't see any supersedure cells, anything like that. So I just I pulled 2 frames of brood out, some nurse bees, and put 2 supers on. That should give them plenty more room to grow and expand. So that's all I typically do in a routine hive inspection. Now, this is May. Things will change up next month in June. I'm definitely going to probably have to pull some of these honey supers off. They're going to be too full. But we got lots of things in bloom. The autumn olive here, which is an invasive species, They love it. They tear that autumn olive up. We got the locust trees. We got several other things here in this woods. And the bees have plenty of resources, plenty of food, plenty of pollen. These are 3 healthy colonies right here, and hopefully we'll make a split with that one. Again, I think I mentioned I pulled 2 splits off that second hive here yesterday. So they're now at my other bee yard where I keep all my nukes and all my splits, and then I'll send them out to the honey production yards. Anyway, I hope you like the video. If you do like this, find it interesting, please like and subscribe. I appreciate it, as many subscribers as we can get. I appreciate all of you. Appreciate the comments that I'm getting and the questions that I'm getting. And again, if there's anything you'd like to see or anything you would like to question me on, there are a lot of experienced beekeepers out there with far more knowledge than I've got, can do a hive inspection 1,000 times better than I do. I mean, I mess up sometimes. I carry my hive tool on my belt. Typically, it's a magnet that I got from Bees Needs. Very handy. I got my queen marking pen. I got a permanent marker in there if I want to take notes. I slap that on there. Sometimes I put it in my back pocket, and guess what? I lose a lot of hive tools when I put it in my back pocket. There's a spot here on this shirt I can put them in. I find that annoying, so I don't do that. But anyway, there's lots of experienced beekeepers that can show you how to take your hive tool, manipulate the frames a lot better than I did. I mess up all the time. I do enjoy having this hook. I believe this is a Kent Williams hive tool, and you can pull out the frames. You can scrape them down. You can manipulate them all the way you want. But take a look at some of the other videos if you want to learn more about hive inspections, or you want to criticize or critique my hive inspection. That's fine too. Please go ahead and leave a comment. Anyway, have a great day, and thanks again for watching. Here's some of that autumn olive. It smells good. I understand why the bees like it. But it is an invasive species. I believe it's illegal to plant anymore. But where it pops up, in woods like these, you just can't help it.